Iran crisis will be no exception. Why should a face-off between two countries thousands of kilometers away affect India? The short answer is oil, and the long answer is this one. India imports 84% of its oil needs, and the conflict-ridden Middle East region contributes to a major share of those imports. In this financial year, India imported 5% more oil from Iran. Nearly 5 lakh barrels of crude oil per day were shipped to India from Iran. Now, with the oil prices soaring following the escalation of tensions between between US and Iran, and that is not good news for India. There are several reasons for this. If crude prices rise by $10 per barrel, India's current account deficit will widen by 0.4% of the GDP. If that sounds complicated, here's a simpler version of this. The fundamentals of Indian economy will be under threat if this situation escalates. So can India do without Iranian oil? No. India needs oil, Iranian or otherwise. The Indian economy is growing. In fact, it is the fastest growing large economy in the world. So cutting the oil supply will be like switching off India's growth engine. What does the government plan to do then? India wants to offset the loss from Iran by increasing oil imports from Saudi Arabia and the US. India bought 1,84,000 barrels of oil per day from the US from November 2018 to May this year. That figure was just 40,000 barrels per day for the same period in the previous year. So you see how much more India is buying from the US. India also imported more oil from Saudi Arabia and the UAE in this period. Saudi oil imports to India rose by 11%. UAE's imports rose by 37%, but imports from Iran declined. And here one can say that political economy is a zero-sum game, and India is balancing the situation well. But if the crisis escalates, India will suffer. We could be headed for a shortage of crude oil, and we're not being alarmist here. Look at the figures. India holds 39.1 million barrels of crude oil as reserves. And this will meet India's energy needs for just 9 days. 9 days, that is all. That is how much reserve we have. By comparison, China has crude stockpiles to the tune of 550 million barrels, while the US keeps 645 million barrels of crude oil as reserve. Now, the Modi government wants to solve the problem once and for all, and India is planning to set up 2 new reserves of the capacity of 47.6 million barrels. That will give India some cushion. But the solution is long-term, and the situation is alarming in the short term. An economy like India cannot afford to have problems on the energy front. So naturally, this issue was discussed in the meeting between the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar today. India said that the US was receptive of its energy needs. Mr. Jaishankar also said that the Iran situation was discussed and that India is concerned about its energy security.
Frankly, I guess both of us certainly came out much better informed of each other's concerns in that regard. In terms of common ground, though I used it for trade, we have common ground on energy as well. I mean, for us, it is important that any global energy supplies remain predictable, that they remain affordable. And I think that's a concern to which Secretary Pompeo was certainly very, very receptive. I think he understands that this is today the world's 5th largest economy, which imports 85% of its energy, a large part of it from the Gulf. So I think he certainly gets, I guess I'm speaking for him, but I think looking at his face, he certainly gets what our interests are.
So what can New Delhi do in the short term? Find alternative sources to buy from, leverage ties with other West Asian crude suppliers.